Good noon, World. Simon Mayer. Hope you guys enjoyed my show I made earlier today, earlier this morning. We're gonna this. I'm gonna take a shower. I've enjoyed the show with you guys. Now after that, I'm gonna watch Robert's walkthrough. Honestly, yeah. I bought a 20 pack, so 20 packs I don't like because they run out fast, but it's enough for today. I just have to be more. Yeah. I don't want to touch my savings. I want to be serious and actually save my money for once in my life. Right? My youngest brother saved like $30,000, even though he's hiding his money. They're hiding their wallet. He saved like $30,000 in 4 years. He works for the bank, right? TD Bank in Canada. He makes about $50,000 a year, and he saved like $30,000. Yeah. Even though I know it's an act, obviously, I'm not stupid, right? Why do you understand why the CFL does this? Yes. There obviously has to be a reason why the CFL's been doing this because the Canadian, the Canadian players are not talented enough. That's why we do this. They have no choice but to grow the league that way in Canada. In an irregular, it's in a regular weird way. We have no choice. Our best Canadian players are just not talented enough to put on the wonderful league we can. That's why they do that. Obviously, yeah. 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 Some Sarah? Why? What do you think is the most plausible answer why the Seagulls struggle with growth? Probably because people kind of just don't care about Canadian football. That's just the truth, right? They don't care about Canadian football, the Canadians. That's why the Seagulls struggle with growth. Or that they're not resonating with the American star players. But if you get rid of the American star players, the quality will dip a little bit. The Canadian players are not as talented as the American players. So if the quality of the game dips, less people will tune to the games because the games are not as entertaining. The value of the value entertainment of the CFL brand will go down. The Canadian players don't put on a show the way the American players put on the way the American players play, right? That's why I guarantee you all the Canadian players in the CFL they're crushed. That's a crushing thought. Yeah, it's a crushing thought to know that the league doesn't think you guys are good enough, obviously, right? That's why they close the doors on you guys. Yeah. Sucks, obviously. I crushed the American players. I hurt the American players a little bit, but I really hurt the Canadian. Yeah, the Canadian players are obviously crushed watching my videos. They're hurt. I hurt them obviously. That I don't mean to be rude. All you Canadian players play and say, well, that's just the truth. But the reason why you guys are not stars is because the league doesn't think you're good enough. Obviously, that's why you're not the stars. They close the doors on you guys, and they have the American guys be the stars up here. And that's cold. I know it's cold, obviously. Yeah. 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 So why the CFL doesn't draft Canadian players to be stars? No, they draft Canadian players for depth, for team depth, to build a better team depth for special teams, backup roles. That's the main reason why they draft the Canadian players. They don't draft Canadian players to be stars. No, no, no. The doors are locked on the Canadian players. Only a few of them who are rare talent get to be stars. But no, yeah, we draft the Canadian players like for team depth, on special teams, backup roles, but like they're not going to be stars. They're not talented enough. That's why they bring up all the undrafted guys. Yeah, Guys who want drafted in the NFL, NFL cuts, guys who want to practice roster in the NFL, those guys are the guys who are stars up here, who they market the Canadian people gotta know nothing about, and they close the doors on the best Canadian players. They're draft picks, obviously. That's cool, I know. Whereas the NFL, they actually draft a lot of players to be stars. CFL's like that. They draft players for depth, for team depth. That's pretty much it. That's why the draft is a crapshoot. And all the draft picks are bust picks, obviously, because they're not talented. That's why they close doors on the draft on the Canadian players. They don't like the Canadian kids. Oh, that's funny, I know. Yeah. In other words, the CFL sees the best Canadian players compared to the NFL best American players. They see it as, when you compare it, it's like garbage quality compared to the NFL. It's a letdown. Yeah, I mean, that's what the league sees it as. That's why they bring up the American guys. Because when you compare the best American players to the best Canadian players, it's a significant drop in quality. 14% maybe drop in quality. It's a significant drop in quality, obviously. When you compare the best American players to the best Canadian players. C4 sees a lot down. They're not satisfied with the quality. That's why they bring up the undrafted guys, obviously, right? For decades, right? That's how it works. And that's cool, I know. Yeah. Yeah. This is gonna take a shower. Yeah. Yo, I think that makes sense. That's why us draft picks are not stars. Yes, guys. So you doesn't think you guys are talented enough. That's why you're not the stars. They don't trust you guys. Yeah, we don't trust the Canadian kids either to grow our league. We gotta bring up the undrafted guys. We're not gonna let the best Canadian players shine up here, and then the undrafted players have lived off that. They can't play pro football. No. We're gonna bring up those guys now that being stars over here and close the doors on our best Canadian players. Because the undrafted guys in America who did not make the NFL obviously are a bit better than the best Canadian players. That's what I'm saying. So they do that. Yeah. Most of the best Canadian players. There's some Canadian players who are just as good as some of the American players, but it's very rare though. The American guys have a bit of the edge in talent over the best Canadian players in Canada. Obviously, that's how it works. Yeah. Guys in Zara? What would you suggest to the board of governors if they interview you? I will tell them, okay, I know the Canadian players are not as talented as the American guys are more raw. I recommend put them through better training, off-season training, that we get performance on the field, and have the coaches really coach the players better, that we get better performance on the field. It won't be like the American guys, but the question is it good enough for the people watching on television in Canada? That's the question, obviously. See if I wasn't thinking, it's not good enough. That's why they bring up the American guys. Yeah. All right, your business marketing strategy could work, but nah, even man, the Canadian players are not good enough on it. Yeah, because we're blind by the American now. We gotta bring up the American guys. I'm sorry, the Canadian kids are not good enough. Obviously, that's why all the CFL drop picks are obviously crushed when I expose the CFL. The reason why all you drop picks barely you guys are stars, you're not. The league doesn't think you're good enough to put on good quality football people in Canada, That's why they bring up the American guys. You guys are not barely any. You guys are stars. That's the reason why the CFL does it. Yeah, we want high quality football. All we do is the NFL. Get rid of the American talent. The quality will dip a little bit, Ivan. It won't be close to the NFL, right? It dipped a little bit. The quality will dip. Obviously. Well, I have a beautiful business strategy. CFL is now Canada, and you have the press interview the commissioner. They talk about the change, and they market the franchise quarterbacks. When is the best players in Canada compete for the Grey Cup? I also have an idea about playing the having the best Canadian players play the best American players in the NFL. Even though the NFL players will destroy our Canadian players, that's how you market the Canadian players. And millions of people will be tuning into the game if you did that. Team Canada versus Team USA. Do like an Olympic game. Like you have Team Europe, Team Canada, Team USA, Team Japan, and they compete for a cup. But have it take place in Canada. That way, you market the Canadian players, and that's how the league grows, and these players become more famous. I know what I'm doing. All right, you're a genius. I know. Even though I know we'll get destroyed by Team USA, that's how you market the players. Obviously, they become more famous. Obviously, so you want contact Team NFL Europe, the Pro League in Japan, the NFL, and have them do an Olympic game. Obviously, but have it take place in Canada. Obviously, because don't have it take place in the States. No, like the NFL is already making a lot of money. They don't struggle with growth. The CFL struggles with growth, so you have to have it take place in Canada, and you air it on TSN, and people in the States will obviously watch that too. They air their American TV network, and that's how you market the Canadian players. Obviously, they're like, "Holy shit, you're a genius." I'm a genius. I know I'm doing. That's how the league grows. Or it might not make a difference, obviously, right? Yeah. But guaranteed for the Olympic Games, millions of fans will be tuning into that. Probably like 6 million people, even 10 million people in Canada around there. Millions of people tune into that game. They'll watch it. And you market it well. Yeah. Some Sarah? The board goes, yeah, Ivan, you're the smartest commissioner Canada we ever interviewed, Ivan. But I'm sorry, Ivan, the Canadian players. Yeah, I know the Canadian players are not good enough. They're a bit more raw. They're not good enough, Ivan. That's why they're never going to get rid of the American talent in the CFL. Yeah, we're never going to get it down, Ivan. Canadian kids are not good enough. Yeah. Guys from Sarah. Canadian kids are not good enough, obviously. Yeah. 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 Why, if you were appointed CFL commissioner, if they interviewed you, you would, I would tell them, I'm going to throw something wild there. You have to get rid of the American talent. But the board of governors will think I'm crazy. Ivan, you're crazy. We're not going to do that. The quality will dip and the league will dip in revenue, obviously. My guys, I can't think of any other way of boosting this thing because you've tried everything you could with the American players and it's not working. So obviously, there's two reasons why your league struggling with growth. Either the fans just don't care about Canadian football, which is probably the real reason why the CFL struggling with growth. People just don't care about Canadian football. It's not popular in Canada. Or there is a bit of a market for it, but it's with your Canadian players. But the Canadian players are not as talented as American players, and the quality will dip. The game is not as the entertainment value of the game will go down. Less people tune to the games, and the league can even dip in revenue. That's why the CFL went, yeah, we're not going to do that. The league can dip in revenue. Why? Because the quality of the game went down. It's not as high quality football. That's why they're never going to do that. Yeah, we're not going to do that. We don't trust the best Canadian players. Yeah, they don't trust the Canadian players to grow their league. Obviously, because it's not good enough quality football for the CFL. They want it more like the NFL quality. That's why they bring the undrafted guys. That way, it's almost as good as the NFL, right? That's why they do that in CFL. I mean, that's cold. I know. Oh my guys, I know the Canadian players are not as talented as the American guys. If you put through better training, you're still going to get good quality football. It's not NFL level, but you're still going to get amazing football. And it's common sense, guys. If you want to grow a Canadian football league, you grow it with your draft picks and players who are from that country. You don't grow it with players who are not draft picks, who are undrafted from another country, who are not Canadian. They're American players from a different country. You don't grow a league that way. You grow it with your homegrown talent. Like the NFL, they grew their league with homegrown talent, American talent. The CFL, it's a Canadian football league, but they don't grow it with the Canadian talent, homegrown talent. They don't grow it with draft picks. They grow it with guys from a different country who are not draft picks. So I am sorry. We have no choice to do that. The Canadian kids are not talented, and that's why the CFL does it, obviously. Question, Sarah. That's funny, I know. Yeah. I'm hungry, guys. I might go make some eggs upstairs. Give me a second, guys. I'm gonna go upstairs and make some eggs. I'll be back in like maybe 7 minutes, right? I'm gonna go make some eggs real quick. I'm hungry. Hope you guys on my CFL show. Alright guys, sorry for long wait. Well, I was just to make my eggs, right? You guys wait, I don't know, 10 minutes? Why don't you guys wait? Yeah. My stepfather took away the computer. Thank God I saved my, I saved all my book file. All my file is saved on my Hotmail. Thank God I took away the computer. But I saved everything on my Hotmail, thank God. Yeah. All right, you're a genius. Yeah, I will tell the board of governors. Yeah, I want to do an Olympic football game. Team Japan, Team Europe, Canada, and USA. Even though USA will win, that's how you market the Canadian players. But I have it take place in Canada for the people of Canada to market the Canadian players. As the NFL players don't need any marketing, the NFL doesn't struggle with growth. The NFL's fucking popular in the States, right? That's how you grow it. Obviously, yeah. And you interview the Team Japan, the Canadian players. How does it feel to face the Giants? Obviously, remember the 1980s Soviets team when Team USA beat them, right? That's the kind of buzz the games will have. This team kind of have what it takes to beat USA. Team USA is unbeatable. There's no hope for the Canadian players, right? That's how you build buzz. Even if they get destroyed, at least you got to market them, right? Now, as the American guys will destroy our best Canadian players. In the NFL, right? All right, yeah, my stepfather took away the computer. So thank God I saved my file, man, on my Hotmail, man. My file stayed on my Hotmail. My file, yeah. Yeah. Thank God, all right, no. Holy shit, you're a genius, I know. I have the wisdom of God. I know how to. I believe if I was CFL commissioner, I can grow the league to a 500, 600 million dollar business in 20 years. Assuming I didn't have the keys, I can grow it because I'm a genius, obviously. Yeah. I'll tell you, I know you guys think I'm crazy, but if you want to grow your league, it's common sense. You grow your league with your own talent. You don't grow it with talent from a different country who are unknowns to Canadian people, who are not drop picks, CFL. Grow it with the drop picks. You don't grow up with players who are not drop picks. I know these American players are talented CFL, but they're not from here. The CFL is not for the American players, it's for the Canadian players. CFL knows that, that's why they drop the best players. If they just choose to lock doors them and just bring up all these American guys who are not drop picks, who are undrafted players from a different league. That's not how you grow a pro league. Obviously, you grow a pro league with the best talent from that country, not talent from a different country that's not the best talent. You don't grow a pro league that way. Otherwise, if you do that, you're growing your league in a very regular way. But the CFL doesn't care. We don't care, man, if they're undrafted guys. Yeah, but CFL, man, you don't grow a pro league with undrafted players from different countries. You grow with your best talent from your country, not undrafted players. Like, it's a very weird way of growing a pro league. I always found it weird. Yeah. Obviously. How would you American football fans feel if the NFL did this? They dropped the best American players and they brought up a bunch of, I don't know, European players who are not drafted from that country and they're the stars in your league. And they close the doors on your best American players. How would you feel? Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't really care. That's a weird way of growing a pro league, obviously. No pro league does this, obviously. CFL doesn't care. We don't care, man. The American players, yeah, I know. Even the undrafted players, even for the States, are fucking amazing players. They're almost as good as the NFL players, right? Yeah. That's why CFL does that, obviously. No, we have no choice. We have to grow the league in a weird, irregular way because the Canadian kids, I'm sorry, even though I think they're talented enough, they're not talented enough to put on good quality football for the people of Canada. It's good enough for the university students when some of the games that sell out, the fans are entertained by the Canadian players. Those aren't even the best players in Canada, so I don't get it. It obviously is good enough for people in Canada, right? Yeah. But CFL doesn't think it's good enough for people in Canada. It's not good enough. That's why they do that, obviously. Yeah. Yeah. All right, do the Canadian players put on a show who are stars in the league? Of course they do. The Canadian players put on a show too, obviously. But you do see a bit of a difference. The Canadian players, the way they play, they're a bit more raw in the way they play. Some of them, right? They look a little bit more raw in the way they play, but they still put on a show on television. All the star Canadian receivers, yeah, the running backs like Andrew Harris, John Corners, they were putting on a show in the CFL. They were the best running backs in the league. Andrew Harris and John Corners were better than all the American running backs. They led the league in rushing yards. Like John Cornish was putting up like 1,800, 1,700 yards a season. I think one season he had 2,000 yards rushing. He was outperforming even the American running backs. Yeah, man. Andrew Harris, too. Andrew Harris led the league in rushing yards, I think, for 3 seasons. He led the league, I think, in rushing yards. He's Canadian. Yeah, rare Canadian talent, right? Yeah. But in most cases, the American guys have the edge in talent. There's only a few Canadian players who are better than the American guys who come up here, but in most cases, the American guys are a little bit more talented than Canadian guys. That's why, yeah, they're a bit more talented, Ivan, more athletic, and they're more coordinated in the way they play the American players. Obviously, the Canadian players are not as coordinated. They look a bit more raw in the way they play. The American players are more coordinated when they tackle, when they run. They're more athletic. They put on more of a show. That's why the CFL starts. The American guy, they're a bit more talented. That's why the Canadian guys are not stars, and they lock the doors on the best Canadian players in Canada. Obviously, they just bring up all these undrafted guys, have these stars. Very weird. We're growing pro league in Canada, man. Yeah, that's why it's tough. Yeah, that's why it's tough for me to take league seriously because all the legends in the CFL, even though I really do respect what they did up here. They killed it up here. Their dream was not playing in the CFL. They're only in the CFL by default. Otherwise, they never would have been here. So it's like these are the legends that the CFL markets, and they induct into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. I always found it weird. They honor these guys, and you know their dream was not playing here when they were kids, right? When they played football, and no pro league is like that. Like all the best players who play the game in that pro league all dreamed of playing in that league. So you can take the league more seriously, and you can be more invested in the league and the players. But CFL's not like that. All the legends in the CFL are legends by default. And they never dreamed of playing in the CFL when they were kids, when they played football. Matt Duggan, Anthony Garillo, Ricky Ray, Doug Flutie. You know what I'm saying? All these American quarterbacks, even though they killed it up here, and I really do respect what they did up here, their dream was not playing in the CFL when they were kids. That's why it's tough to resonate with these American players. I always find it weird when they induct these guys. Let's honor this man today, and they have the jersey and the same. Yeah, it's cool CFL, but like, it's very weird because I know the dream wasn't playing here. So it's like they're only in your legends in your league by default. They just happen to be legends in the league that never even playing it. So it's like it's weird. I don't know. legends by default. Otherwise, they never would have been legends in the CFL. It's weird. Like, no pro league is like that, right? It's weird. I mean, that's weird. It's weird, man. You know what I mean? It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. I guarantee you some Canadian football, yeah, even though it's a bit weird, we don't care, man. They killed up. But yeah, I get that. They killed up here, and I know you guys respect where they're, but they killed up here. I really do respect these guys up here, but I know the dream wasn't playing here, right? That's why it's weird to me personally. That's how personally how I feel as a Canadian football fan. Yeah. Yeah. See, he was the guy. We don't care, man. The dream wasn't playing here. When they played here, they loved the league. The fans loved them, and they stayed here. Yeah, I get that, CFL. They loved the league. They stayed here, but they're only legends in your league, CFL, by default, because they didn't get their NFL team. That's why they're here. Otherwise, they never would have been here, right? So when you think about it that way, it's weird. And these are the people who the CFL honors, and they induct into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame in the hall, the building hall, and everything. And like, it's weird. Like, all these players never dreamed of playing here. Never dreamed of playing the CFL when they were kids. American football players don't care about the CFL. They don't think about the CFL. CFL is an afterthought to the American players. Yeah, they only end up in the CFL because they didn't get an opportunity to play pro football in the States. That's why they're playing pro football up north, because they didn't get their opportunity to play pro football in the States. That's why they're here, right? And a lot of these players use the CFL as a farm to get an NFL shot. And these are the people who the CFL marks as the Canadian people, and you wonder why CFL league's not growing. I'm sorry, man. We have no choice. We don't care if they're using our league. This is how we grow the league. Ivan. The Canadian guys are not good enough, not talented enough. We can't have these guys because we don't like the Canadian kids. We have to lock our doors in them and have the American guys shut up here. They're not good enough, Ivan. That's why CFL does that. I'm not so funny, I know. I'm sorry. Take a shot for this. Majority of you guys. I thought I'm gonna watch some Rad. Yeah. That's why I'm a genius, obviously. If the board of governors interview me and I pitch this to the league, they're like, "Holy shit, you're a genius. You want to do like an Olympic thing? Yeah, like Team Japan, Team Canada, Team USA, Team Europe." Like, Ivan, man, we don't want to get embarrassed on television. Yes, I know Team USA will wipe forward Team Canada, but that's how you market the players, man. That's how you market it. Millions of people can't be tuning into this, guys. Eric and Canada on TSN, and that's how you grow the league and you market more of your Canadian, your best Canadian players. That's how it works. Obviously, but it might not make a difference. Maybe it only has buzz because of the NFL players. They don't really care about the Canadian players, the fans of Canada. I don't know, but that's how you grow the league. You know, I'm a genius, obviously. Yeah, but you have to contact all the pro leagues, NFL Europe, the Pro League in Japan, the NFL, and you have to discuss with the board of governors for all those leagues. I want to do an Olympic game, but I want it in Canada. Obviously, don't have it in the States. No, have it in Canada. That's how that way you market the Canadian players. Because the American football fans don't care about the CFL. They don't care about the Canadian players. You got to market it in Canada. That way the people in Canada tune in on TSN. That's how you market, and that's how it grows. I'm your genius, I know. Obviously. And the game will have crazy buzz, and it's what if Team USA played Team Canada, it would be something like Team USA and the Soviets back in 1980. The Soviets were the greatest hockey player, greatest international team in the world at the time. They even beat the NHL All-Stars. That's how good they were, and these college kids beat them. That's the kind of buzz that the Team Canada versus Team USA game will be like. And that's how you market these Canadian players, and they're more famous. I know I'm doing it. You're a genius, I know. I'll pitch this to the CFL committee. They're like, "Holy shit, man, you're the smartest commissioner we ever interviewed, man. This could work, Ivan." Sorry, we can't do that. Obviously. We can't do that, Ivan. Yeah, Canadian kids are not good enough. That's why they'll tell me no. Yeah, if you don't do this, guys, I'm stepping down as CFL commissioner. I don't want to be your CFL commissioner because I can't find any other way to grow your league with the American talent. No, Ivan, the American talent way. Okay, guys, what's your business strategy of boosting this thing to $500 million in 15, 20 years? $600 million. We don't know. They don't have an answer because they tried everything they could with the American players, the CFL, and it's not working, obviously. Yeah. Like, guys, I don't mean to be cold. These American guys may be talented, but they're not your draft picks, man. They're undrafted players from a different country. They're not draft picks. You want to grow your league, you grow it with your draft picks. That's how you grow your league. You don't grow it with undrafted players from a different country who are not Canadian. In Canada, you grow it with your Canadian players. Obviously. Yeah. As the NFL, all the players playing in that league are all the best American players. Yeah, right. There's a few Canadians. Yeah, there's maybe like, I don't know, 5 Canadians playing in the NFL, but all the players are all the what? All the American guys. There's no Canadian players playing in the NFL. Only like a few guys playing in the NFL. And all those Canadian players are not stars. They're on the practice roster or they're like third string playing special teams. Because the NFL doesn't really care about the Canadian players. Now, they have a bias towards the Canadians, so don't forget that, right? They do have a bias towards Canadian players. Yeah, we don't like you Canadian kids. Yeah, I don't like the Canadian kids in the NFL, obviously. And that's fun, you know. Why isn't the NFL like the Canadian kids? Because they're American. It's a bias, man. And the NFL is not for the Canadian players. It's for the American players. A few of them play in the league, but it's not for the Canadian players. It's for the American players, the NFL. That's why the Canadian kids don't really care about the NFL, because they know the league is not for them. It's for the American guys. The CFL is for the Canadian kids. Why do some CFL drafters take NFL opportunities? Because it's a huge opportunity. You might as well take it. Even though my dreams play in the CFL, the NFL is better than the CFL. They can pay me a lot more money. They're interested in me. I might as well take this opportunity. I'm not going to pass this up. But the CFL is my home. If I can play in the CFL, I'm happy with that. Like, they don't really care about the NFL, the Canadian guys. But they take NFL opportunities, like, obviously, because it's a big opportunity. They make more money. It's a better league than the CFL. That's why they take that opportunity. But their dream is playing in the CFL, the Canadian kids. Not playing in the NFL. Playing in the CFL, that's their dream. The American guys aren't like that. Their dream is playing in the NFL. It's not playing in the CFL. They're only in the CFL by default. All the American guys play in the CFL, and that's fun, you know. Yeah. Got some Sarah? Yeah. Well, see what's talking about. All right, if you get rid of the American talent, you're going to crush all the American players. And all these undrafted guys have nowhere else to play pro football. No. There's a UFL, there's a Union football. They can play their guys. Yo, Ivan, man, like, all these undrafted guys won't have an opportunity to play pro football. Yeah, so you care more about the American players who are undrafted in the NFL to play pro football over your own Canadian draft picks. So yeah, the CFL obviously cares. Yeah, we care more about the American kids playing football over our own Canadian players, because the Canadian players are not talented enough. Ivan, they're not. We don't like them that much. The American guys deserve to shine. That's why they do that. Very weird. You care more about the American players CFL who are undrafted in the NFL, who never dreamed of playing the CFL, who are not in front of it to play pro football over your own Canadian kids who you draft. Obviously, in Canada, it's very weird. It's a bias, obviously, and it's like a betrayal to your own country. We don't care if it's a betrayal to our own country. And we're biased by the American talent, man. The Canadian kids are not good enough. We have to have these undrafted guys shine up here, Ivan. Yes, CFL, they've been shining up here for like 70 plus years of history, and you're only peaking at 300 million revenue. So obviously, something's not right. You're struggling with growth. Either the fans of Canada just don't care about Canadian football, which could be the logical explanation, the logical answer, or they're not resonating with your American star players because they're not from here and they're from a different country, and no one really cares about that much, obviously, in Canada. You market all these quarterbacks, running backs, receivers. People in Canada don't know anything about these guys. That's why the CFL does documentaries about some of the star players to give you more information about them. And the play-by-play guys give you information too about the players sometimes. Yeah, like this player played at this NCAA university because the people in Canada don't know anything about these guys when they play up here, right? That's why they give you some information about them. Yeah, this player played at Ohio State University. He was undrafted in the NFL. He was on a practice roster in the NFL. He got cut from the NFL, and now he's playing pro football up here. That's what they say. The play-by guys, right? When they market the American guys. But they don't say they're draft picks because they're not draft picks. Whereas the Canadian kids, they say, yeah, this player was drafted by this. Whenever a Canadian player makes a play and they say this kid was drafted, you take the league more seriously. You're more invested in the league and the players because you know they're draft picks. The American guys he brings up here are not draft picks. They're just guys they just bring up here. They put on negotiations. They just bring guys up here. Obviously, they're free agents, right? They're free agent guys who are not draft picks. And the majority of those free agent guys are the stars. They're not draft picks, obviously. I find it weird, obviously. No pro league is like this. No pro league grows league this way. I always find it weird. Yeah. Rest of Sarah? Yeah. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, man. Could you imagine if the majority of the star players in the NFL were not draft picks or just guys from different countries the league just brings up here? Were undrafted from a different country and they happen to be the stars in your league. Like, yeah, it's weird when you think about it, right? It's a very weird we're in a pro league, obviously. See what as a guy, we don't care, man. Like, we're talented guy, if we're talented, we gotta bring it up, gotta be stars. We don't care, Ivan. Fucking talented. Yeah, they are talented, the undrafted guys. They're very talented players, obviously. But they're putting on a show on television and no one in Canada cares that much. So obviously something's not right. But the logical answer, people in Canada just don't care about Canadian football. That's probably the reason why the CFL is struggling with growth. The Canadians don't really care about football, right? They don't care that much about Canadian football. So the CFL is putting on high quality football almost as good as the NFL. It's not NFL level, it's almost as good as the NFL. And people in Canada still don't care, man, about the games. And they're very entertaining games. Very entertaining games. I'm surprised the CFL is not doing 500, 600 million revenue. It's only peaking at $300 million. So the fans of Canada just don't care about Canadian football. That's my answer, obviously, why you're struggling with growth CFL, right? The fans of Canada don't really care about Canadian football. That's why the CFL is struggling with growth, obviously. They don't care about Canadian football, the Canadian people. Or they're not resonating with your American star players. I'm saying, yeah, they're not resonating with American star players. That's the other answer. One of those answers is true. I don't know which one is true, but one of those answers is true. Don't hate them, yeah. 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 Guys from Sarah? Yeah. Why? What if the league grows to 500 million in 20 years? I will take everything back I said, and I was wrong. The American talent is the way to go, even though I highly doubt it, because they've been doing this for decades and the league's not growing that much. But I mean, I was wrong, and I'll take everything back I said. The league can grow to that. The CFL's trying to get to that $500 million range. That way they can raise the cap and pay the star players more money. They don't have to worry about losing their American players to the NFL. Because once receivers are making $600, $500, defensive players are making $300, $400, $450,000, quarterbacks now making $700 to $1.3 million, it will turn down NFL opportunities because they're making a great living up here. Even though this was not their dream, they're making a great living up here. They're living a rich life. They know their chances of starting NFL is not high. They might end up on a practice roster, third string. They'll what? They'll rather just stay up here. They don't want to jeopardize their career up north. Yeah, I'm making all this money, even though it's not NFL money. I'm making an amazing living up here. I'm not going to go to the NFL and jeopardize my career up north. Because if I get cut from the NFL or I'm on practice roster and I come back to Canada, I might lose my starting position. And like, you know what I'm saying? That's why the GMs won't have to worry about losing their American players in the NFL. That's why they're trying to grow the league to like $500 million in CFL, but they're struggling, obviously. Well, the Canadian players in CFL, you don't have to worry about them going to the NFL. If the Canadian players are making that kind of money and the league grew to that level, no Canadian player will go to the NFL. It's very rare you're going to get a Canadian player going to the NFL. Canadian kids don't really care about the NFL. Yeah, but they know it's a better league. Yeah, the Canadian football players know the NFL is a better league, but they know their chances of starting in the NFL is not high. And they know the NFL is not for the Canadians, it's for the American players. The CFL's for the Canadian players. That's why they don't really care about the NFL. But some of them take opportunities because you might as well take it. It's a huge opportunity for them. Higher paying work. It's a better league than the CFL. That's why they choose to take it. But their dream is playing in the CFL. If they can be stars up here, they're happy with that. They don't really care about the NFL, the Canadian kids, right? Whereas the American guys, it's not like that. The CFL doesn't care, obviously. We know we don't care, man. They're talented, man. We don't care if they're using our league, man. That's how we grow the league. If they lose players in the NFL, they can just grab a bunch more guys from the States. That's what CFL does. That's funny, I know. I hope the league grows. I could be wrong. Maybe people in Canada just don't care about Canadian football, right? Anyways, guys, here's Robert, guys, on my CFL videos, my CFL shows. I'm Aaron saying, peace out, guys. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to enjoy the show with you guys. Peace out, guys. Don't hate me, guys. I'm saying. Peace out.